Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Discover a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
So I've lost all muscle definition. I don't know if you've noticed.
Why would I comment on that?
No, because I set you up to comment on it, but I wanted to be.
Did I say anything?
No. But I just wanted to be clear. I was like, unless I was misleading, I have always have cankles, and part of the thing that helps my cankles not look so cankly. Would you think I look like I have really sturdy ankles? I don't. That's what pisses me off the most. I'm fine with cankles if they represented a sturdy ankle. They don't, because I have no calf definition now. It's fully the same size. I'm I need to start doing some calf races. Look at that.
Interesting. You know what else I noticed? So I remember one time I came to your home. I pulled out some socks and they had little grippers on the bottom.
Oh, did I steal these from you?
No. But you made fun of me and said,
I
why
did.
would you wear those? Why do you have them? And I said, because I don't have slippers here. So they put little grips on the bottom. And then today you show up and what do you have on, Megan?
I have grippy socks on. And I have grippy socks on because I keep grippy socks on to wear when we have open houses, but we haven't had any where they've made us take our shoes off. And I now have this new fear because my equilibrium has been off since COVID. I now have this fear of slipping and falling, mostly in the bathroom, and getting a traumatic brain injury. And so now I'm team grippy sock because I'm afraid of falling. Yeah.
Well.
You were right. I should have never shamed you. I always, instead of saying eat shit, I always accidentally say people who've eaten ass. And no matter what, I always people fucking just come to my house and eat ass. And I'm no, they eat shit, they fall. I don't know why. Okay.
I have a fear that I'll be on my exercise bike and then my knee will lock up and then I will fall and break my knee or leg and then be clipped in and I can't move. That is my fear.
Have you ever fallen in a spin class?
No.
I have.
Did you fall or was it your childhood doppelganger?
Amy
Schumer in
it is.
What was that movie called?
I Feel Pretty.
I Feel Pretty.
It is remarkable how I even think, even if I didn't get the nose job, it is a little wild how if you showed me a picture of me as a baby, I would say, yeah, she could be Amy Schumer.
Her child looks
exactly like me. It's super fucking weird. It's so funny though. But some people do tell me I still look like her.
You have the eyes.
Yeah.
And they're similar.
We have similar features.
Yeah.
I was going to say the most humbling experience of my life was I fell off of a Pilates reformer.
Am I surprised?
No. It happens to everyone at some point. Here's the thing. You either, it's you're one of your first classes and you fall off because your body doesn't know how to do it. Or you go when you're too tired or you're hungover. The worst when you see people hungover. When I'm
on my bike. I used to have a chiropractor that had Pilates there and then also regular massages that you could get while you're there. And it was all covered by insurance. So it cost $5 to get a massage and go to Pilates essentially. But I never fell off.
Okay. Flexing.
I just wanted to share that.
It's fine. I guess we should start the episode.
That is the episode.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Don't Blame Me. We are your hosts, Megan Rinks and
Melissa Diamond Mont.
Woo woo. We give advice, life-changing, life-altering, amazing, wonderful, beautiful advice from two people who have never done anything wrong in their entire lives. It's a burden being so perfect.
It's so hard being the chosen ones.
It is similar to Harry Potter.
Chosen twos.
Mm-hmm. Instead of the golden trio, we are the
devilish duo.
So if you want to call in for an upcoming episode, you can leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. International listeners, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. Got to keep it under 3 minutes or you'd be cut off. Write down everything you want to say, practice it, time it out, and then read what you write when you're recording your voicemail or your voice memo. Let us know your pronouns, and you have to be 18 or over or have your parents' permission. And if you want to watch the video version of this podcast, we're on Patreon / if you just want to support the show. We do live streams there twice a month, and we have a lot of fun, and it helps us keep doing the show.
Keep it moving, baby.
Keep it moving, bitch. And you can watch our reactions, which are a great fun time.
I like my face.
Yeah, I like my face.
You have a great face.
I do. Yeah, it depends on the day.
No, you do.
Thank you.
Your pimple's gone.
No, it's covered up, but thank you.
But it's not like bumpy.
It's not.
Smooth.
Yeah, it was.
It was really standing out on your Instagram.
You have no idea. Do you ever have it where sometimes you've like a zit that you've popped that's like, it usually happens on like, I find like really close towards like the end or like the more pointy parts of like my chin or like your nose or something. So where like you're looking at it and it looks like it's ready to pop because of like shadows and highlights. So I thought it was ready to pop and it like didn't. And so then I basically just made a blood blister. And then like 2 days or like the next day, it was like ready to pop. And then I finally like was like, you're just going to pop it. And I went for it. But I sometimes just forget that like when my skin is like doing well, and I mean the skin on my face, the skin on my legs is not doing well. There's always going to be one part of my body that is struggling with it. But when I'm dealing with like really bad dryness, my dryness and like contact dermatitis can turn into eczema really fast. And so then I will then be like, oh, I should put some like Aquaphor Vaseline on this because like it's turning into eczema. But then I'm like, oh no, you overshot. It's not eczema yet. And so your skin didn't need this. And now we're clogging your pores and you're going to get a zit. I have to like walk this very fine line of like having like sensitive and acne prone skin that like can't get congested versus like eczema / chemical burn, which I like need those things. And
completely
so
understand.
I just
and
fucked
relate,
up. Yeah.
Because I have extremely dry patch. You know, my face is always peeling.
Yeah.
For some reason, I have extremely dry patches on my cheeks. I've tried a lot of different oils, and all of it breaks my skin off. So I can't out. So I can't use any
It's
of
brutal.
it, and it's just like there's nothing I can do.
Yeah. That's like basically what I've discovered. I'm like, okay.
I'm gonna have one or the other.
Yeah.
I've chose to just live with the dryness.
Me too. That's like exactly what I've chosen to do as well. And it's just, I'm just going to have to deal.
Yeah.
Well,
Jesus.
Any updates? I'm still not engaged. That's my update.
We're going to get nails done today, though.
We are. So I'm getting prepared to get engaged. I hope you all have like listened to that episode of the podcast of the, But Am I Wrong podcast, the other podcast we started. It's quite funny. And we're enjoying doing that. What else is new? We've been looking for houses
I have
still.
so much inside information.
I know. I don't want to know.
I know.
Okay.
I'm just glad that one of the engagements that
I know I saw on Instagram and I was like, she must be so happy she doesn't have to deal with that anymore.
Yes. And I almost spilled it on this podcast. Well, I did spill it on this podcast, but then they had it edited out. But she did listen to it, so she would have heard it.
Oh my God. Wow. Good fucking call. Yeah. Well, if either of you are listening, congratulations.
Yes.
So what's new with you?
I went to the chiropractor last week, and first I found out that my wrists are weird.
Okay.
Like both my wrists, my bones, there's like 4 bones. And so he just did one because this wrist has been hurting for some reason that I can't figure out. Because it's not my dominant hand, but it's been hurting for months. And so he did an x-ray of it. And he's like, I've never seen anything like this. Your bones here don't line up how your bones are supposed to line up. And then he was like, let me do a scan on the other wrist to see if it's like this is an anomaly. Yeah. Both of my wrists are like that. So
weird. Yeah. That's super weird.
But we can't find out what's wrong with that. I need to go to some other doctor for that. But he adjusted me, and the amount that I didn't realize how my neck was not turning fully in either direction, it was astonishing. Like the movement I have now, it even lengthened my neck.
Oh yeah.
So I just feel like a new person.
I'm so happy for you. I did feel like I had a taste of your struggle yesterday because the night before last, I was doing my hair.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get some volume in my hair, I got to really move it around.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put on Taylor Swift and I was like literally being like, how does she do her hair flip things? And I was just like flipping, made a whole TikTok about like, how do you do it? Like, it's so hard. Someone commented, like, I was waiting for you to like smack your head against like the counter or like throw your neck out. And I was like, haha, I woke up yesterday morning and I was like, I am so stiff, like still right now. It's like not good. And Mods was like, oh, did you sleep wrong? And I was like, no, I was head banging to Taylor Swift and whipping my hair. And he was looking at me, he was like, you're a fully grown woman. And I was like, and? So I can imagine, like, I only had a taste.
Yeah.
And it was not fun.
Mm-hmm. Pre-pandemic, I was a regular at the Cairo. I hadn't gone because of the pandemic, but now I have to, add it back into my things because my body just feels different. I've also lost a lot of muscle definition too, because I hadn't been working out, but
okay. Well, should we give some advice?
Yeah. Oh, just so that you guys know, we're not going to do an update. We're probably going to take like a Saturday or something because a lot of people do have updates, but they're working when we
Which
record.
Is valid.
It's very valid.
So we record on a Tuesday. And so
in the middle of the day.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that we can like actually talk to people, and like get the good updates. And so it's not just people who like, we don't want to have to work your work day around it.
Yeah. So look out. We will probably have a Saturday coming up where we're going to do a bunch of updates. And if you can do an update during the week on a Tuesday around 2 p.m. Pacific, actually anytime on a Tuesday, we'll figure out the schedule. Shoot us a message. That's our regular time.
It is our regular time. Okay. Well, that being said, let's give some advice.
Ready?
Yes, sure.
Hi, Megan and Melissa. I'm a 23 she, her, and I'm seeking advice on how to deal with a friend breakup. That was my fault. The other person I will be referring to in this situation is 22 and goes by she, her pronouns, and I will be referring to them as Emma. Emma and I have had bouts when we were best friends and then bouts when we weren't, but I would describe us as always being friends, if not close friends, for the past 15 years or so. After we graduated high school, we became inseparable. We were spending every week together, we're in constant communication, and I'd grown so close that we even referred to each other as soulmates. However, there was a miscommunication a couple of years ago that put a dent into our friendship. In short, Emma became very upset with me for prioritizing a friend in need and spending time with them a day that she assumed, though did not ask, that we would spend together. Her emotions over the situation brought up her feelings toward me as a whole and caused her to write out a list of everything she hated about me and send it to me. To her defense, we were fairly young and each trying to manage our own mental health, but she did berate me and then expected me to jump right back into our friendship without any accountability on her part. After some time, we did end up mending our friendship, though I will admit that the words she used have stuck with me and continue to negatively affect my mental health and relationships years later. Still, in the past year or so, we have both made efforts to reconcile fully and have become very close again. Once again, we have begun spending time together and communicating constantly, and our relationship felt that it had progressed very naturally into a safe and stable adult friendship. However, recently she announced her bridal party and I wasn't on it. It's embarrassing to admit that I was very upset over this, as it proved to me that I prioritized our friendship differently than she did. I took a day to reflect and even reached out to her, but she never acknowledged my comments. We continued speaking fairly normally for a few weeks, but I felt as if I had been publicly reduced to nobody to her, but privately was expected to act as a secondary lapdog. I only intended to take a few days to process my feelings about all of this, but days became a few weeks and a couple of months, so I basically ghosted her. I am feeling very guilty, and what I really want is to speak to her about everything and give and get a full explanation, but I'm worried that that's too much to hope for or ask for, as I assume the silence on her end is insinuating that she wants nothing to do with me. I truly do have so much love for her, and ideally, I want her to be in my life.
So what it really is she wants an explanation. And feeling guilty about ghosting. Oh, this is hard. I think that I definitely relate to this. I've said so many times, Sydney and I had we've had 2 fights in our life. One time in 7th grade and one time we were 20. And
you wrote a very mean letter.
No, she wrote a very mean letter to me. And then she called me and read it to me. And I just cried. And she has said, like, without even prompting, someone was talking about like the worst thing you've ever done in your life. It was like a group of other people. And then he goes, oh, the probably time that I wrote that letter to Megan. And I was like, oh my God, you still think about that? She was like, yeah, it was the meanest thing I ever did.
You said that on the show.
No, I know, but I was going to say, so like, I relate to that aspect of it. And like, similar to you being on the other side of it, I hold no ill will or harbor any feelings towards that. Like, it's just one of those things that like at that age, like you seem like you understand it too, that it's like, we're still understanding how to like communicate with our friends, like as adults, and like, but we're not fully adults yet, but like we're being treated as adults, but like our brains aren't fully developed, and like we're going to inevitably hurt people. And like, it was just a poor choice of communication, not necessarily a character flaw. Mm-hmm. But I understand that like the words, it seemed like those kind of stuck with you, and it did.
It's so hard to shake hurtful words.
Yeah, I would guess that because you didn't, they really stuck with you and it didn't shake, like that friendship, you didn't pick up where it left off. Like you're starting from a different place versus like reconciling to kind of get back to where you were, versus like, that's not happening. Like at this point, what you have been doing over this time of like getting closer again, it's not getting back to how you were before that happened. It's getting back to a new normal and a new relationship. And I think that the morning of not being asked in her bridal party is like, it feels like she has not been prioritizing you in the same way. Is this the only indicator that you feel like that? You know what I mean? Because like that to me, I'm like, I don't think that your closeness with somebody in those relationships, like if that whole like that whole shit hadn't happened, I'm sure you would have been like in a bridal party, but your relationship has changed
so much.
Yeah. And like, it's not indicative of how your friendship was, but like how the friendship is now. And like, I don't know. I also think like if you had like a really big, like falling out, having that person, like that kind of hurt that you have from like that, regardless of whoever was at fault, but like mourning the loss of a friend for a time, I think that it would be really hard to like ask that person to come do something that's like really major and big, because if you said no or something else like happened like that, it's like a very big rejection. But at the same time, I think that's like how you're feeling by not being asked. I would have been annoyed if I was the friend, because like the wedding, it's so not about you. And I think that like the nice thing to do if you were expecting it and she knew that you were expecting it, for the friend to reach out and be like, hey, I just want to let you know that like, obviously I'm really glad we're getting closer again, but like, I want you to come to like, definitely come to the wedding, but like, I am going to keep the bridal party people who have been in my life for the last like 5+ years and have like really been around. And like, I don't want that to be an indicator, you to feel like an indicator of our, like where our friendship is going. I just feel like we're still in the early stages of getting close again. And like, that's like what I'm choosing to do. But she didn't. And I also don't think that that's not necessarily like her fault, unless you felt like really misled. But the one thing that she did say, that she was like, I feel like I'm like a lapdog in private, but like that public, it's like, what's that?
Yeah, that's what stuck out to me too. I went through this thing when I was younger and I had friends, and I thought that we were a lot closer than they thought. And during those times, I would like be the kind of person where I would like listen to their problems a lot,
Mm-hmm.
you know, have phone conversations, or they'd come over and hang out. But then in public, we weren't as like at school, we weren't as close as friends, because it might have been like a neighbor that it felt closer at home, and then at school, because we weren't in the same classes, they didn't feel the same type of way. And then also because I moved around a lot as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have childhood friends. And, you know, this is before social media and stuff. We had AOL, but I realized that they would be closer to other people because they had known them longer.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just, I just didn't understand friendships at that
Yeah.
point. But then as I grew older, I realized, you know, there's just different levels to friendships. And I've had a best friend that we fell out over something. And like, this was like my like number one best friend, went to them for everything. Like people, like we were inseparable. People would like call us like, where's your better half? Like that's how, probably like how close you and Sydney are. And then we had a huge falling out. She got really upset about it, but it was because of things that she done. She didn't understand why I was upset about it. And then like she still wanted our relationship to continue in the same way that it had been. And that just wasn't how I felt about the situation. And sometimes like from different perspectives, you think because you've been through certain things, then you still deserve the same level of friendship that you had before. And because of how it affected you personally, the friendship can't continue in the same type of way. And so I feel like that friend that I just mentioned, I feel like if I were to get married, she would still expect to be a bridesmaid in my wedding.
Yeah.
And that's not how I would feel.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also hard because like in most of these cases, and this also, each of you are taking issue with actions and reactions of the other person. So like nobody is entirely at fault. And like in every instance, both people are kind of hurt. And like, I also think that like if you took this moment as like her not having you be a bridesmaid as like an indicator of this means we're not close anymore, I think that there just needed to be way more communication in there, because it doesn't seem like she was like, oh, I'm cutting you off by not having you be a bridesmaid. Maybe that is like what it was. And like that was like a non-way, but you said you've still talked to each other about it. But like, I think if the level of friendship is resting on the fact that if you don't get asked to be a bridesmaid, it blows up. That's not the bridesmaid issue, is not the issue. Like, I don't think you guys have communicated your way through it. I think it's kind of probably felt a little bit uncomfortable, and sometimes when like enough time has passed, it feels like, oh, water under the bridge, but like, it's clearly not. Like both of you still like have like feelings towards this and like haven't unpacked it and have just kind of thought time has healed the wounds. And this has just brought up these wounds all over again.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I just think it sucks because like about this specifically, your feelings are totally valid, but like it is really hard in the context of someone else's wedding to have opinions and like really like strong feelings about it, in sense that like now this wedding and like the bridal party is now about your friendship with her, not her wedding.
Yeah.
You know, I would assume it's probably turning her off why she didn't respond about that. And then you basically have ghosted her since then and not wanted to talk, but you want like an explanation. If you felt like being a bridesmaid in this wedding would fix things or change things, like what explanation do you want? Like if you're looking for one, like what is it that would make you feel okay about it? Right. You know, I think this is kind of just like those friendships after a certain period of time that you assume are just going to go back to the way that they were. And to me, it just sounds like both of you feel like the other one's in the wrong and the other one hurt you. And so neither of you are meeting each other halfway. You're kind of waiting for the other person to like do the apologizing and like make the grand gestures to like fix the friendship. But both of you probably think you're equally right. Yep. You know, but this sucks. I would definitely understand like the feeling of being like heartbroken about like that bridal party aspect, especially if you're still like going to the wedding, because you're like mourning a friendship that you don't have anymore. Yeah. Because that friend, I'd still invite her to my wedding, but I wouldn't want her being in my, unless things change. I mean, I'm not even dating anybody, but that's like what things could change and friendship could change. But at this point right now, I wouldn't. And I also think that like it's not like a sign of death, like a seal. Like, I guess if you feel really like disrespected over it and like you want the relationship to be done, but like there are plenty of people who like don't even talk to their bridesmaids like years after the wedding. They're not friends anymore. And they're incredibly close people who like weren't bridesmaids like in their wedding. It doesn't have to be that like, yes, like all or nothing kind of thing, you know, maybe if she got married like 5 years later, like, you know what I mean? Like if it was more healing had been done between the two of you, but maybe it just felt like too soon. Right. Or maybe she truly, like, you are her best friend in private, and like, then in public, she's like, fuck off. And like, then she's completely in the wrong. Yep. Well, I hope that helps. Yeah. I hope that if you feel ready, if you want to still go to the wedding, you go. But if you don't push yourself, if you don't want to go. Yeah. Anytime it's like, you'll regret not going. No, I always regret going. I always regret going. If I don't want to go and I make myself go, I wish I wasn't there. I never regret staying home. Ever. Should we go on to the next?
Hi, Melissa and Megan. First off, love this podcast. It's one of the only ones my ADHD brain can actually focus on. But anyways, I wanted to ask her his advice on this topic. My roommate and her boyfriend have been together for around 1.5 years, but the last 6 to 7 months have been an absolute shit show, to say the least. He's a through-and-through narcissist who has issues and has just been dragging my roommate along. My roommate is so incredibly nice, the kind that you actually don't believe is that nice and think they're like fake. And then you actually realize like, holy shit, she's just an actual saint, which is why it's so hard to see her go through this. He keeps blaming all of this on his mental state and him not doing well mentally. We are graduating college in a couple months, so I get it. We all have shit going on too, but whenever she brings up suggestions on him getting help, like therapy and other stuff, he literally gets offended. So you would think that if he's going through a tough time, he'd lean on her, aka the person who loves him the most, but instead he's partying and drinking a ton and not prioritizing her whatsoever, because he doesn't even invite her out either. She finally grew some balls and broke up with him like 3 days ago, but now it's starting to say that she doesn't really know if this is what she wants or not, but my roommate and I keep reminding her it's not going to be a walk in the park, and they both have stuff to work on, aka him, before they can even think about getting back together. And they definitely have not had enough time, as they've already seen each other like twice, to talk and apparently get off their chest, everything off their chest, which I don't even know what the fuck that means. She literally hasn't even had a full week to process any of her emotions because he doesn't give her any space to do so, and I don't think she's really giving it to herself either. I'm never one to involve myself this deeply into my friends' relationships, as I don't think it's my place, but I live with her and she is constantly asking for my opinion and our other roommates as well. I would appreciate any advice on this, just because it's literally like taking an emotional toll on me at this point, and on my other roommate as well. Thank you.
This sucks.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It's beyond sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like the ending part of you saying like this is taking an emotional toll on you and your other roommate, like that needs to be the top part. Like you need to address that first, because the way that you talk about her, first of all, I like want you to be in love with her. Like it's just like, you just like, she's so nice. She doesn't seem like a real person. I'm not like, trying to romanticize that, but I'm just saying that like the way that you speak about her, it's clear that you like love her so much and she's like such a great person. And that's why it's like so hard to watch this kind of go on. And it seems like you guys are beyond roommates. You're like really good friends too. So like you have the double layer of like, I fucking hate my roommate's on again, off again boyfriend or whatever. And I can't cut myself out of the situation because like I fucking live there. And also I hate one of my best friends. Like, you know what I mean? Like you hate one of your best friend's boyfriends. Like you have this like double whammy of emotional support and then also just physical proximity to this situation that like it is really hard. The best advice that I can give for things like this, when like a friend is going through something like a relationship and you are on the outside desperately wanting them to see it, don't talk first. Let her speak first, hear what she's saying, and then take a read on the situation, not just every day, but like every conversation of how much effort am I going, or how much am I going to put into this based on how much that what does she want to hear right now? And what is she going to be able to receive? Because there's nothing worse than like going off on like a 45-minute pep talk kind of thing. And it's like, she's just like, that's not where she's at. And you're wasting your breath and your emotional labor.
What do you mean by that? Like, you mean like, just like never bring up the boyfriend, and then
if and when she brings it up first, just like be there of being like, yeah, let me listen. And like the questions asking, having no opinions to them. And it's like, oh, it's like, what do you think? So the biggest thing is always like, well, what do you think that you want to do? Like, how are you feeling right now? Like, where's your head at? And not having it be like, what are you thinking about? It has been really sucky that he's been doing this, and this, and just kind of leaving it open-ended. But also, I think if she's not bringing it up, I think you totally should bring it up, and just in the sense of being like, hey, just wanted to like check in on you, see how like things are going. We haven't talked about like the relationship in a while. Like, do you want to talk about it? And just kind of like leaving that there and bringing it up in that instance. So it's like a, hey, you can come to me kind of thing, but you also then can get a read on the situation before you put all of that emotional labor into it, because it is totally taxing. Because like, I think that you're able to see that they haven't had all of that much space and haven't had, and like, that's easy for any of us on the outside to kind of see. But what is going to be the most like prolific to her is nothing. This, I don't mean this in a bad way. There's nothing you're going to say to her in these moments that it's going to click, and it's going to be a light bulb moment. That light bulb moment she's going to have is going to be her own thought process. And you can plant the seed, sure, but it's not in the way of like, wow, it just really sucks that he won't go to therapy. It's not that instigating that. It's the whole, she's already coming to like I don't even know if I want to get back together. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And when we have like second guesses about our decisions that we're making, it's because we're like, well, did I make the right choice? And if you or your other roommate, if your voices are too loud, even if it is the choice that is the right choice and the choice that she wants to make, if there are other voices saying the exact same thing as her, she's going to cloud that. And it's going to feel like those are those voices. And she wasn't necessarily, it wasn't just like really her. So like, think of it in the way that like, you know, when you kind of have a conversation with like someone who needs to think something is their own idea, you know, but like in a way more subtle way, and having those talks, I've found that like friends that I've had who've like gone through those kinds of things, when I have just like listened, and similar how a therapist does, like let you kind of work it out on your own and talking about it, that sticks with you much more than me telling you something about someone who there's all the arguments against my thought process of them. Cause like, I'm not dating him. I haven't seen him in private. Do you know what I mean? Like all of that kind of stuff. So you can't really make those excuses when you're coming to those realizations for yourself. Cause like, if those thoughts cross your mind organically, it's because like, oh, there are no exceptions. Like I do know him in private. I do know this aspect of our relationship. And like, this is what I'm thinking about. So as long as that's open there. And then for the no space thing, I think just like, again, not addressing that specifically, because most of these things are not like brand new information to people who are going through it, but just being like, hey, like let's go do this next weekend. Like, I want to go do this. Like, let's do this. Like, plan something with your other roommate with her, like plan stuff with her. Like, so you can have that time and space that's not just like you all hanging out in the apartment. Maybe it's like going on a drive or going to go get coffee or doing those things that kind of show like, hey, in the words of Taylor Swift, except we're changing out one word, hey, kids, like being single is fun, like showing that aspect of it, because there's only so much you can say about like your boyfriend sucks, your boyfriend sucks, your boyfriend sucks. It's hard to like leave a relationship when that's when you've known for like X amount of time. So I think it can be more beneficial to be like, look how great it is. Like when we're hanging out and we're like all single girls and we're having fun. Like there are other, like there's going to be good after it.
Yeah, I've had friends that have been in relationships with guys that I didn't like, didn't trust, who were bad for them, who just weren't who they needed to be with. And the first friend that I had, I would tell them how much I hated them. And the first friend I had in this type of situation, I would tell them how much the friend hated them, or how much I hated the boyfriend, and they didn't hear it at all. And it just drove a wedge in our relationship, and also made it so that when she needed help, we weren't as close.
Yeah.
And so if you are there just to be like a sounding board, let her drive the conversations, as Megan said, then you can always be there. You know what's going on behind doors as well.
Yeah.
And so I completely agree with everything you said.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. But you do have to prioritize your own emotional capacity, because even if like you're not a bad person, even if like with everything I've said, that like even just listening, you get that emotional burnout, like you need to tap out. Like, and there's like nothing wrong with that. I'm not for saying anything bad about someone's partner unless they have been broken up for consecutively, like a year.
They've been broken up consecutively, or I fear for their safety.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but like, I'm not, you might get back together, and like, I don't want what I said in those moments to prevent you from coming to me again.
Especially now that like now a lot of my friends have husbands and they'll talk bad to me about their husbands, and I will not say anything back because it is their husband.
Yeah. And also no one talked about like, oh my God, it was so sweet. We did blah, blah, blah. But it is hard.
You complain about the bad things, but most of the time, not in this situation, but most of the time, the good outweigh the bad.
Yeah.
It's just they're venting and they need somebody to vent to.
Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Woo! Okay, we will be back after our break. We are back from our break, and we're getting to the rest of the calls.
Hi, Megan and Melissa. So 25-year-old Libra. I'm going to try to not cry during this call, but I recently started going to therapy and I'm just like a more sensitive person now. But anyways, so this is about my dad. Basically growing up, like I had a very strained relationship with him where, you know, like I know that he loves me and wants what's best for me, but the way that he parented me kind of cemented this idea that I was never good enough. And I know he did it because to him, he knew that I had a lot of potential and could do better, so he would push me. But the way that it came off was like, I just could never do anything right. And, you know, there's a lot more to that. But essentially, once I became an adult, I had zero intention of like having a relationship with my dad or anything. Just because like consistently he would do things that kind of made me feel like a bad daughter, a bad sister, a bad person in general. But this is a whole other thing. Essentially, stuff happened where I could not cut him out without like fearing for his life, honestly. And so now he's in therapy. He is seeking the help that like he needs. And so he's like in that stage where I think he's taking accountability for what he's done to me. And so I got a letter from him where he was apologizing for a lot of like specific events that have happened in our past and just like in general how he treated me. And I can feel my voice shaking. I'm about to cry. But I'm feeling conflicted in that I don't really want to forgive him. And I know that I don't have to, but there's a lot of guilt that comes with it because like I know my sisters have a better relationship with him and they have a lot more like empathy towards his own mental health issues. But at the same time, like the way that he handled things towards me is not okay, regardless of whether or not he was like suffering from like depression or whatever else. And so how do I go about like forgiving my dad, but also not wanting a relationship with him? Do you think it's even worth like trying to mend a relationship with him? I don't know. I just hate how he's making me feel like a bad person for not wanting to forgive him when he's the one who treated me badly for like 25 years of my life, honestly. So yeah, thanks for your advice. I love the podcast, love the new podcast as well, even though there's only one episode out. But yeah, thank you.
Oh, I want to give you like a socially distant hug.
But yeah, this is hard. Like you said, you don't owe him an apology. And I guess my question is he pressuring you to forgive him? Because I feel like if he's going through the steps in therapy and he has a good therapist, and the therapist would tell him that he shouldn't expect you to accept his apology.
Yeah.
Like it's more so for him.
Yeah. I wonder. I mean, it is really hard, regardless if it's coming from him or not. Like there's so much judgment with like cutting out members of nuclear families and all of that. Like, and especially having sisters where it's like, well, aren't you going to feel like you only have so much time with your parents? Like you only like, or like life is short, like all of those kinds of pressures, or also like, you know, could just be that he has instilled that in you for 25 years that like, you know what I mean? Like those, like how he speaks, the implications or any of that. But I agree. I think if like any of that has come from him specifically, that's an issue in itself because he's wanting for forgiveness for something that he's actively doing. Mm-hmm. There is an in-between of all of this. You don't have to have a relationship with him at the moment. And you don't have to forgive him. You don't have to decide if you're going to forgive him right now. You don't have to forgive him right now. You don't have to be like, I'm working towards forgiving him. That doesn't even have to be on your mind. He is your father. That in itself is a relationship. You can decide how much of an active and practicing relationship you have with him. And as much as like people try and act like cutting someone out, it doesn't get rid of that relationship that you had with them previously. And if you are still processing and working through that relationship of the last 25 years, I think it's a lot to ask of you to work through that trauma of that relationship with a therapist and then actively have a relationship with that same person in a different font right now. Mm-hmm. That's a lot to ask of somebody. And
I feel like 25 years of trauma could take you 25 years to heal from, if that's what you,
without a doubt,
that's what you're working towards. Like you healing has nothing to do with you forgiving him. So I would say like, do what you need to do to heal. Mm-hmm. If that's forgiveness, great. If it's not, that's also great. But, and you say you're in therapy too. So figure out with your therapist what you need from this situation.
Yeah. I also think that like, I'm very much on the same side of, regardless of what he was going through, it doesn't excuse any of his behavior that he had towards you. But I do think that apology letters in that kind of thing, I understand that they tend to happen with like step programs and in therapy and all of that. But most of the time, those letters are something that you are supposed to write and not send. And I understand that it is an apology, but unless like he reached out to your sisters to kind of clear with them and say, do you think this would be okay for me to send it? It can be a traumatic thing to receive that and like something that you weren't prepared for necessarily. You didn't necessarily want that. And it can be kind of a selfish thing that then feels like, well, this letter doesn't absolve you from everything that you did. And now you have forcefully put the ball in my court of our relationship because this now seems like a grand gesture of a magic eraser that has erased all of the things, and that hasn't happened. And that's like a very hard thing to do. I don't know what the situation is. And it seems like your dad is in like treatment and getting help. I'm not sure if there's like a set amount of time that you have like with him longer. This whole argument of like, well, you don't know how long someone's going to be around. And like, this is like a parent or whatever. A parent alive or not in the picture, that trauma doesn't go away. Like that does not go away at all. And it's something that you deal with now, then, like before, after, like it's always going to kind of constantly be there. And so I think taking it day by day, and you don't have to make like decisions. If one day you feel like you would want to have a conversation with him, then go for it and do that. But like, there is no like promise with any action or statement or anything that you say that it's like, oh, I'm going to forgive you. And that means I absolve you from everything that you've done. And that's not it. It's like, maybe I will have a conversation on the phone with you, but that doesn't mean I forgive you. And if his only goal is to get forgiveness from you and not like take whatever you are willing to give, and that might be absolutely nothing for a couple of years, then to me, that's not someone who should be trusted as someone who's been a very traumatizing figure in your life to be invited back into your life.
Right.
It's very hard. And taking accountability in writing and saying it and acknowledging all of that kind of stuff, unless it happens in practice, that's a very hard thing to believe. And also, you can have no desire to want to see it happen in practice. Like some people can do things that are not forgiving and you can't forgive. I also think if your sisters have a better relationship with him. And so I think it's also sometimes you just have to mourn the relationship you never had with someone. And that doesn't mean you're not going to get that relationship again. It's not going to go away. It's not going to get fixed. It's not going to turn into that one. And so like recognizing that if your sisters are trying to pressure you, it's like, well, I'm never going to have that relationship with him. It's too late for that.
You could also take that letter that he wrote you with specific things. There might be one or two things that you could forgive him with on that. Yeah. You don't have to forgive him for everything.
He can be an acquaintance in your life. He can be like, the relationship doesn't have to be that of father-daughter. And if that's something that he really wants and that figure and all of that, he has not earned that role. And he has to earn that back. But yeah, you're not a bad person at all for needing to prioritize yourself.
Right. Be selfish.
Be selfish.
Hey, Megan and Melissa. So I'm going to jump right into this because I'm like kind of freaked out. And this is all very new and current for me. So I am a 23, pretty much 24-year-old female, uses she, her pronouns. And the guy that I'm talking about is 27 and uses he, him pronouns. So I just met this guy, right? And I started dating him literally 3 days ago. So not like a relationship. I use them differently, but yeah, nothing serious. And I've hooked up a couple times and it's been like really great. He's a really great guy. He's really nice. We have a lot of similar hobbies. So I like him as a person, but the weird thing happened yesterday where we were like texting and he called me and he was like, hey, so I wanted to talk to you about something. And I was like, okay. And he started talking about like how he's concerned with the smell of my vagina. Cause like he went down on me and he ate me out and everything. And he was like, yeah, it was really fun and I really like your vagina, but it like smells kind of weird. And like the smell has like lingered on my fingers. And I was like, one, wash your fucking hands. Like that's fine. But two, I've lived with my vagina for 24 years now and it's always smelled like this. Like there's nothing wrong with it. And vaginas don't smell great, you know, like they smell like vaginas. But I don't know, like, was that just a weird, like, bad offhanded thing to say, or am I being too sensitive? Like, again, we've only known each other for 3 days, and he's already talking about, like, how he likes me so much, and he doesn't usually like people as much as he likes me, and I don't want to be like that girl that's like, oh my God, no, I'm different, like, I'm special. I know I'm not fucking special, like, I'm just a human, you know, like, I have my flaws, I'm not that special, I haven't, like, proposed to him, you know, and he's already, like, telling his parents about me, like, I don't know, is this, like, love bombing? I don't really know what to do. Okay, any help would be great. Thanks, guys. Bye.
He's not a good guy. Why would you preface this with saying he's such a good guy? We have so much in common. But then everything you said after that was all bad, and you know it's bad. You acknowledge that it's bad. There's so many red flags here. He's love bombing you, but he's also trying to manipulate you to make it seem like, hey, I love your vagina, sex is good, but like you need to smell. If his fingers are still smelling the next day, that's a him problem.
That man has an unwashed ass.
Yes.
He has never, ever, ever washed.
No.
He's trying to make you, like, this is classic love bombing, and like, I don't want to say that like you should do love bombing well. Like, no, it's all horrible, but like, he's doing a really bad job of it. Like,
he's love bombing you, but then trying to knock you down.
But that's the point. That's the point of love bombing. But like, he's just like not timing it well, nor is he being subtle at all. And like, he's not doing the slow burn. Like, he's just like coming in hot. So he's trying to make you insecure about this, and to get you to seek his validation and seek his approval, to like put him on a pedestal higher than you. So you're trying to impress him. Like, he is love bombing you, but this is just like, so like, this is like a ghosting situation. Like, you just like stop responding to his text messages, like stop responding to everything. And I promise you, after like 3 hours of you not responding, he's going to call you 27 times. And then he's going to be like leaving you voicemails and like, what are you doing? Like, what's happening? And then he's going to get progressively more and more angry. And you're going to like see like him go through the stages of what he would be like in a relationship. Do you like, this is not.
Yeah. And you're not going to, because you're not going to progress this far. Get the fuck away from this dude.
What the fuck? There's a special place in like Idaho or hell or whatever you want to call it. Have you ever seen I have a TikTok that's like choked my reference, my niche audience. No one's seen it except me. But men specifically, like men with penises, everyone sure in general, but like cis straight men with penises who fucking comment on the smell and odor of vaginas, those are not only unwashed ass, but like, you're a fucking idiot. Tell me you are inexperienced and you are trying to, instead of owning up to the fact that you aren't that experienced and like being okay with that, you are trying to weaponize and like make my own body disgusting to me because you don't have experience with bodies.
The thing is, he lied because he said, I love your vagina, but I'm concerned about the smell and my fingers still smell. It's not even like that's...
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if you are going to make derogatory comments about someone's vagina, all that tells me is not only are you an asshole, but I'm like, he's trying to speak of it's like, you know, I love your vagina. I like love going down on you, this like sexual confident thing, but like your vagina, like the smell, blah, blah, blah. Like, not only is that cruel, but I'm like, you have no experience. Like, that's what vaginas smell like. You have no fucking experience.
Screw him. Move on.
Literally.
We're done.
Run. Yeah. Run.
Okay. All right. You know what it's time for?
Don't blame them.
Let's play it.
Hi, Megan and Melissa. I'm calling in for Don't Blame Them for the most recent episode where the person's roommate had a golden retriever and wasn't taking care of it and was neglecting it, and they felt responsible for taking care of the dog. And I thought the advice you guys gave was good, but I have been in a situation similar to this where my friend's roommate was not taking care of her dog and would just leave it in a kennel for so many hours and would go out of town and just leave it in a kennel. And I ended up researching no-kill shelters in my area. And so if you have any of those in your area, you can call them and ask their advice on it. Or if your local humane society is a no-kill shelter, you can call the animal law enforcement and they will actually come and do a wellness check on the dog And obviously, if it's been in the room forever and your roommate isn't there, and all of your roommates can attest to that, then they will likely take the dog and put it in the shelter. And no-kill shelter will keep the dog until it gets adopted. And golden retrievers will get adopted really fast. So that's what I would do, because I don't have the time to handhold someone. And I fucking hate when college students and young people get dogs that they can't take care of. It's so frustrating. Like, college students can barely take care of themselves. So the idea that you can just get a dog for it to be cute and like fit your aesthetic, I absolutely hate it. So if you have any of those resources, that would be awesome. But yeah, good luck. I hope you're able to figure something out.
Great call.
Good advice.
I was really afraid it was going to be like, just take the roommates' dogs and bring them to the shelter without them knowing. Yeah. I was like, oh. Well, a lot of you had lots of opinions on that. It seems like very similar consensus. And yeah, that is our episode. If you want to go leave a review on the podcast app, we would highly appreciate it. Go get in there before Rachel can leave her bi-weekly negative review about us being too political and being vaccinated.
And having a bad aesthetic.
Yeah, I can't. And what happened to them being all about love and positivity?
That was never us.
Never. You're incorrect here. Go follow us on Instagram by Megan and Melissa. We have our other podcast, But Am I Wrong? Comes out on Thursdays. Go check it out. It is brand new. We have a lot of fun doing that. It is like, if you don't take our advice, that is what you end up on. Go listen. I'm pitching it better than that. And then go follow us on our own individual socials. Follow the Instagram. And call in for an upcoming episode.
Yeah. All the information you need is in the show notes.
Can you tell that we really have to go because we're running late to go get our nails done?
Yep.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me. Executive produced by Melissa DeMonts and Diamond Imprint Productions. Edited by Coco Lawrence. Post-production sound by Chris Henry. Production assistance by Melanie D. Watson. Music by Ryan Hunter and Giacomo Picasso.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys. It's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests who share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like, it would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, are you ready for some real talk and some fantastic laughs? Join me, Megan Rinks.
And me, Melissa DeMonts, for Don't Blame Me, But Am I Wrong?
We're serving up 4 hilarious shows every week designed to entertain and engage and, possibly enrage you.
In Don't Blame Me, we dive deep into listeners' questions, offering advice that's funny, relatable, and real.
Whether you're dealing with relationship drama or you just need a friend's perspective, we've got you.
Then switch gears with But Am I Wrong, which is for listeners who didn't take our advice and want to know if they are the villains in the situation.
Plus, we share our hot takes on current events and present situations that we might even be wrong in our lives. Spoiler alert, we are actually quite literally never wrong.
But wait, there's more. Check out See You Next Tuesday, where we reveal the juicy results from our listener polls from But Am I Wrong?
And don't miss Fisting Friday, where we catch up, chat about pop culture, TV, and movies. It's the perfect way to kick off your weekend.
So if you're looking for a podcast that feels like a chat with your besties, listen to Don't Blame Me, But Am I Wrong on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.